Michael, welcome to the Leanpub launch video for Beyond the Ticket, the complete software support engineer, the definitive guide from fundamentals to mastery and career excellence. I was wondering if you could take a moment to talk to all of us a little bit about yourself and about your book and what it's about and who it's for.
Yeah. First, thank you for having me, talk about my book. And I'll start by saying my name is Michael Bali, and I'm a software support engineer professional with more than 7 years of experience across enterprise SaaS, developer tools, cloud support, and AI workflows. My book is called Beyond the Ticket, the complete software support engineer. And I wrote it because support engineering is often misunderstood as simply responding to tickets or as a temporary step before moving into another technical role. My experience has shown me that it is a demanding discipline that combines technical troubleshooting, customer empathy, communication, product knowledge, and business awareness. Now, these books takes readers through the complete profession. That is from understanding the professional, understanding the role, and the troubleshooting complex problems to incident response, incident management, support metrics, AI-powered support, and career progression. Ultimately, I want support engineers to understand the value of their work and approach their careers with greater confidence and intentions.
One of the things I absolutely love about the book is that I completely agree with it, with the
Yeah,
premise.
yeah, yeah,
Personally, there's a book, there's a business book called Working Backwards by some sort of former Amazon executives, and
yeah,
Amazon, whatever one thinks about some features of that business, is one of the biggest and most successful businesses in the world, and one of the ways it got that way was by a very strong like sort of commitment to customer support, and everyone at
yeah,
Amazon, at least for a long time, had to do 1 day of customer support, and that included Jeff Bezos. He had to sit there 1 day, and it was very, and it's like, I'd love, because one thing you talk about at the beginning of the book is like, this is where like theory hits practice. All
yeah,
the you may have done all your kind of lean startup or customer development, get out of the building when you're building the business and stuff like that. But if you
yeah,
it's, and not just for, not as it were just for software developers, but for executives, you know
yeah.
customer support is basically is where theory hits practice. If you can't nail that, everything else is a kind of secondary question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, if I could just share, just in line to what you said, like what inspired me to write about this book, I would say the inspiration came from like just seeing that gap in between how important support engineering is and how little like, the professional literature exists for the people that are doing this work. Many support engineers are introduced to the profession like through ticketing systems. This is your queue, work on unresolved tickets, and then you're expected to learn by trial and error. At the same time, some people find the support engineering role as a stepping stone into software engineering, DevOps, or products rather than seeing it as a valuable profession in its own right. So throughout my career, I've seen support engineers like diagnose complex technical problems, protect customer relationship, identify product gap, influence engineering decisions, or product map. And yet most of these contributions remain invisible. So I wanted to create like a kind of resource that I personally would have valued if I had access to earlier in my career, and one that explains not only how to resolve an issue, but how to think, communicate, grow, and create wider organizational impact.
Yeah, you just mentioned communicating, and one of the ways you describe the role of support, or define support engineering and the role of it, is as a translator. And I was
Yeah.
wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So basically, I would say as a translator, when you work on support tickets, you are supporting a product. As a support engineer, you need to understand the product, the technical details, the different features, the different components that makes it what it is. For instance, if you're supporting a product like, let me say, Leanpub, for instance, you need to understand all the different technical components, how they connect to each other, so that when you're working with clients or customers that are using the product, if they have issues, you can communicate to them both in a technical term and in a way that you're not just saying technical jargons that customers don't care about. You're communicating what they actually want to hear. And then you're also helping them understand how to use the products better. Like maybe what is the best practice for using Leanpub as an example?
Mhm.
What is the best, what is the best way to get the value out of what I'm paying for as a user? So you're translating what your understanding of the product to ensure that customers are getting value from what they're using.
Things we're in a moment where things feel like they're changing really fast.
Yeah,
And just to give people a bit of a teaser, at the end of your book, you talk about the future and beyond and some emerging trends. What's one of
yeah,
you're sitting there, right? At the sort of like where theory's hitting reality with
yeah,
customer, developers, customer support.
yeah.
What's one of the emerging trends that you see happening right now? So just so people get a little taste of what you offer in your 300-page book.
I would say one emerging trend that I'm seeing right now is how much impact AI is having on support engineering. And there's been a lot of conversation about like maybe AI is going to replace support engineering roles. And we all know that AI is going to replace certain jobs and the likes. But what I see and what I predict is I do not believe that the future is simply AI replacing support engineers. I believe that AI would change which parts of the job require the most human attention. For instance, AI can help search documentations, it can help you summarize long conversations, it can help you categorize tickets, draft response, identify patterns, but it can also hallucinate. It can provide outdated guidance. It can mishandle confidential, information if used carelessly. So I see that the role of a support engineer is going to evolve into being more of someone who is able to take whatever it is that this AI tool, has dished out and use human and best judgment to determine if it is good enough, to share out. And I feel like a support engineer is evolving into become AI literate. Like you have to become AI literate in order for you to be a standout support engineer in your role. So that's one of the things I predict for the future. And also being able to have the ability to think critically, because it's going to be a very, very important feature to have in the future that we are going into with AI.
Uh, the book is Beyond the Ticket, The Complete Software Support Engineer, the definitive guide from fundamentals to mastery and career excellence. Michael,
Yeah,
thank you so much for taking the time to do this brief launch video with us today. I hope people who watch it get a bit of a taste of what's in this book. I mean, we only touched on the surface, but there's all kinds
yeah,
of structure and depth to the things that Michael was saying and that
yeah,
end up in this place where we're predicting the future and being prepared for it. So I definitely recommend this book if you're wondering how from whatever level you are in a company or in a startup or a big established company, if you're wondering how, the support engineering role can be defined and can be most effective, especially going forward into the future, I highly recommend the book. Thank you so much, Michael, for taking the time to do this launch video today.
Thank you so much for having me here.